Good afternoon, everybody. Good. So thank you again for joining. I want to start with another quote that I've found recently that I think is really worth thinking about. So it's the trouble with not having a goal is that you can spend your life running up and down the field and never score. And just have a think about that for a second, because it really does kind of tie in with strength training, and it's a step that a lot of people miss is the goal planning stage of strength training, and going to the gym. And particularly in the new year, your goal that you probably create for yourself is I want to start going to the gym and I want to start going twice a week. And that's about all you've thought about. You've not really thought what you want to get out of it. Sometimes it's a bit of weight loss or fat loss. Sometimes you just want to feel a bit generally stronger. But if you don't spend the time now, the short-term motivation that you've got from it being the new year and having had a couple of sessions that have gone well and you feel like you're taking positive steps, at some point that's likely to wane. And if you've not thought of a longer-term goal that you're working towards and you can't see your progress as you're working towards it, you're probably going to find that you're just going to give up. And it's a lot of it's a lot of the reason that people never really make it even beyond January and into February for their New Year's resolutions. So it's something that I do recommend having to think about, particularly if it is to do with being stronger. What does being stronger actually mean to you and to your life? I mean, how is it going to improve your life? And what can you envisage yourself doing? For a lot of people that I speak to, that could be that you have less pain, so it allows you to do more in the garden. You might be able to have more confidently pick up your grandchildren, be able to play with them and get down on and off the floor with ease, and that's the vision that you have in your mind. It can be being able to go on that walking holiday that you thought about going on, but you're not sure that you're going to be able to cope with it. And there's all these kind of things that if you keep those as visions in your mind, they can really help. And I don't know if anyone's seen it, there's a really great advert that's been on over Christmas of a granddad who starts to go into his garage. He kind of pulls out this kettlebell and he starts lifting it and can't do it very well to start with, finds it very difficult, and each day goes in and you can see that he's looking at a picture but you can't see what's on the other side of the picture at the start, and he keeps doing it despite the concern from his neighbour and his daughter who wonder what he's doing and think he's gone mad by doing it. And then it finishes with him on the Christmas day turning up at the daughter's house. The granddaughter runs to give him a hug. He opens a present, and it's a star for the tree, and he turns the granddaughter around, picks her up, and then she's able to put the star on the tree. And then it pans to the picture that he had in the garage, which is a picture of his granddaughter. And that's the goal he had in mind. It's a very clear goal. He wanted it done by Christmas Day, and that's the thing that kept him going, even when it was cold outside and he family members telling him he should probably stop. He had a clear goal. So that's what it's really important you think about that now. If you've just got going and you haven't really thought that part, it's not too late to do it now after having started, but do have a think about that. So just that quote again, the trouble with not having a goal is that you can spend your life running up and down the field and never score. And that's where a lot of people do. They go into the gym, they'll do a bit of work over here on this equipment, and then another week they'll mix it all up and do something else, and there's no real consistency to it, and they are just running up and down that field like they're never scoring. They're not working towards actually being stronger or to what they want to get from the gym. So once you've got your goal, you can create a plan based on how you're going to achieve that goal as well. If you do want any help with that, then you might well be interested in, I've got a free ebook, the Never Told to Lift ebook, and you can get that from nevertoldtolift.com/start-here. That will help you through that goal planning process, and it will also help you put together a plan that's going to work for you with your current ability levels and any injuries or conditions that you might have at this stage. And it's going to help you get towards the plan that you've set for yourself, or that goal that you've set for yourself. So if you're interested in that, then that's something worth considering. The other thing that I've mentioned, that in just under an hour, so at 1 o'clock today, I'm doing the second of these webinars. So it's going to be roughly about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. And it's going to be a presentation with videos and slides and pictures. It's a bit more structured than these Q&A sessions, of all the theory that you kind of need to know and some exercise ideas that you could get started with a bit of a program from there. So if you're interested in that, if you go to nevertooldtolift.com/webinar, you'll find the link to sign up to the Wednesday one. So obviously ignore the Tuesday, that was last night, so we had a really good turnout for that, and really engaging group, so really happy with that one. But if you want to join in with Wednesday, I think we've got about 75 people registered already, so there's definitely still some space on there. That might be of interest to you there. So yeah, welcome to another one of these weekly Q&A sessions. So these are here. So my name's Chris, I'm a physiotherapist. I work in the clinic with strength training in mind. I try and get people who never thought they were able to do it to start to take the steps, and actually see that they're capable of far more than they thought they were, and then that has that positive impact on their life. And I'm trying to get out to a few more people to be able to make that change. But I realise there's often stumbling blocks or often questions at the start that stop you from getting started. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have on how to get started with strength training as an older adult. So this is going out to live to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a chat feature on, if you're on screen, I think it's the right hand side of the screen. Do type your questions into the chat. They'll pop up to me here and I'll try and answer those today, or if not, definitely in the next week's chat when I do these at 12 o'clock on a Wednesday. If you're watching this on Facebook, there's a comments feature under the video. Again, put your question there, I'll answer it there. You may well be watching a replay of this, so still do ask your questions in the comments. I will check back in the week and I'll ask those in future weeks. And then whilst I'm on that topic, there's one favour that I'd ask for you if you're watching. Then if either on YouTube or Facebook, you can click the thumbs up button underneath this video. That really does help the YouTube and Facebook algorithms, and start sending it out to a few more people so they'll see, and hopefully we'll get a few more people who might take some action from that. And also make sure you're subscribed to Never Told to Lift on YouTube, as you'll be informed each time I do run one of these. So as always, I've prepared some questions that were sent in the week. This one was emailed to me, so if you are not wanting to publicly put a comment out with a question, you can also email me. So it's chris@nevertooldtolift.com, and I'll answer those again and anonymise it for you there. But I had this one come in last week, so it's a 3-part question which I'll tackle them one at a time. But the first question was, what sort of equipment would be good to start, please? Also, do you recommend any cross training / cardio alongside lifting? And the third question was, any supplements that you would suggest to help lifting later in life? So I'll tackle these as they've kind of come on there. So if we start with that first one, what sort of equipment would be good to start training or strength training? Now, part of it does depend on what stage you are currently at. So if you are very new to strength training, you've found yourself at a point where you feel very weak, and you might well find that bodyweight exercises are enough of a challenge to build some strength. In order to build strength, you do have to push the muscles sufficiently so that you get the muscles close to fatigue, so the last repetition is the last one you could have managed. Now, for, like I say, some people, if you're, say, doing a squat and you're getting up and down from a chair and you do that 15 times, it may well be that you struggle to do 15 because your muscles feel tired, in which case you would have been working towards muscle fatigue. You would have got very close to that point and you will get stronger as a result. If you're someone who could very easily do 30, 40, 50 of those in a row without really kind of getting muscle tiredness, then if you're just doing that, you're not necessarily going to get any stronger. So you're now going to need to start to hold a bit of weight in order to be able to get the point where you reach 15 as almost the last one you can manage. Now, the weight you use doesn't necessarily have to look like a weight you would find in a gym with a barbell or dumbbell, kettlebell, etc. It can be things you've got around the house. So rucksacks are often really good, or backpacks, so you can put some heavy things in there. So bottles of water are really good, because if we know the volume of water, we know the weight of that water. So a litre of water is a kilogram. And what I really like are these bottles of Screen Wash, because they're 5 litre bottles, so that's 5 kilograms, and it comes with a handle. So you could hold one in each hand. You can fit quite neatly 2 of those into a rucksack, zip it up, which is what I did in lockdown when I was trying to do some workouts. So that's automatically 10 kilograms there. And then if I'm holding one in each hand as well, that's 20 kilograms. So you can get quite heavy relatively quickly with some of the things you've got at home. as you progress, you're probably going to find that you will need some equipment that does look like gym equipment. So there's two options then. You can either buy some equipment from home, or you can go to a gym where you've got access to a lot more. So in one sense, a gym is preferable because for your monthly membership, you've got access to a vast array of equipment. But also realise that a lot of people don't like the gym, whether it's because you've got to leave the house and find the time to get out, or because you might have to queue for equipment, etc. And you can kind of mitigate that, but if you've got flexibility in your schedule to go in different times of days. But however, if you are going to do this from home, which is absolutely fine, you might want to look initially, the three bits of equipment I'll probably start with is probably a gym mat, so you've got some padding for the exercises where you're down on the floor. A resistance band, so you can do exercises such as pull-based ones, so you'll kind of anchor it to maybe a door handle and you're going to pull the band in towards you to allow you to work the back muscles, or is there some way you kind of pull across the body for rotation of the trunk and the body. They're harder to do with weights alone, so resistance band is good, and you can get those for £6 or £7 on Amazon. And I'd probably start with a set of adjustable dumbbells. So these are, you kind of get the two bars, so it's one in each hand, but you can then slide various weight plates on and off, and then put these kind of clips on there. So you can change how much weight. Whereas if you get a set of dumbbells that are 2 kilograms, you've then got to get another set that's 3, or however the increments you go up. You have to keep buying multiple sets of dumbbells as you progress. Whereas a set of adjustable, you can just keep changing those for the different exercises, and as you progress, you can add a bit more weight on. And normally you can get them fairly inexpensive, sort of £30-40 that go up to about 20 kilograms. And then you can buy additional weight plates to put on later on. With a little note, they do come as cast iron, or some are vinyl. The vinyl ones tend to be a lot bigger because they're less dense, whereas the cast iron ones, because they're a lot dense, they tend to be smaller. So as you go up in weight, they then become a lot bulkier and harder to maneuver around as you're holding them. So I would probably spend a little bit extra and go for the cast iron options versus the vinyl ones, or the ones that kind of fill with water or sand. There are more expensive options that you kind of turn a dial and then you pick up the bar and it leaves the weight you want on it, and you put it down and you can turn the dial to the next weight you want. But you're getting closer to kind of £150-200 a dumbbell there, whereas the cast iron adjustable ones where you slide the plates on and off yourself, they're much more affordable, about £40, something like that, depending on where you're looking and what time of year you're looking. If you do want any kind of ideas of equipment and where to find it on Amazon, I've got a tab on my website. So if you go to nevertoldtolift.com, and at the top you'll see a tab that says recommended equipment. You can click on there, and then it should underneath have a section for equipment, and it's got listings for Amazon ones that I tend to recommend. There's also some books on there that you might find, but yeah, the equipment will have it on there. You might well be interested. There's a for anyone who's at the more advanced stage who really wants to kind of up their home gym, there's a fantastic product that's a bed that folds up, and then out of that folds a squat rack, and in there you've also been able to store your bar and your weight plates and everything. So it's called Pivot Bed or Pivot Gym. So pvt.fit is website, pivot.fit. But the link will be on that recommended products page. But there's they've organised a discount for anyone who follows Never Told to Lift, so it's 10% discount there. So the code you'll see it on there. But that's a little side note there. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. So yeah, basics, I would get a mat, a set of adjustable dumbbells, and a resistance band is probably all you need to start. And then there might be a few other things that you have at a later stage. Good. So next question in there was, do you recommend cross-training or cardio alongside lifting weights? Now, I mentioned there that when we're trying to train, we're trying to push the muscles that we're targeting to fatigue. Now, when you've pushed muscles to fatigue for multiple sets in a workout, the recovery after that is just as important as the session itself. And when I say recovery, it's and rest in between. What we want is at least a day So you're not doing the same thing on the next day. You're going to wait 48 hours as a minimum to do the same muscle group again where you're pushing to fatigue. So what I would say is your cross training is great because it's another form of exercise that doesn't push those muscles to fatigue in the same way that you can do in the day in between. But there's various ways, because some people go to the gym 5 days a week, and what they tend to start to do is, rather than doing full body workouts on every single day, they start to split their days. So a common split you might hear people talk about is a push-pull legs. So on the first day, they might do a load of exercises that work the push muscles. So they're working the bench press, where they're working the chest muscles, they're doing shoulder press, and exercises that work that group of muscles. So when they come into the gym the next day, they're going to do pull exercises. So they're ones where they might do kind of the lat pull down, where they're pulling down, or seated row, where they're pulling in, and they do a whole range of motions around that pull group of exercises. So they're working more the back muscles. But whilst they're doing those, they're not really utilising the push muscles. So their push muscles are getting a bit of a rest on that pull day. And the next day, they come in and do a leg day. So their leg muscles are really getting the work. So again, both their pull and their push muscles are still getting that recovery, so that the next day they come in, and yes, they've come in every single day, but their push muscles are ready to go again. They've recovered and ready to push from there. So some people, they just do the gym and work on strength work. A lot of people, particularly if you're starting this later in life, aren't necessarily huge fans of the gym. And I spoke to someone today who's part of my Stronger for Life course, and she says she's really enjoying the benefits she's doing. She's been doing it 2 days a week for about 4 or 5 months now, and feeling so much better for it. But she has to admit she still doesn't look forward to it. She doesn't necessarily enjoy it, but she enjoys the benefits of it. So if you're someone like that who just wants to know how to do the bare minimum really to be able to get the benefits, to be able to enjoy everything else you want to do, you're not going to want to come into the gym 5 days a week. So on your days in between, it's absolutely fine to do any kind of cross training. So cross training refers to any other type of training that's not the gym. So that could be swimming, Pilates, yoga, hiking, cycling, anything along those lines. Could be sports like tennis, etc., golf. And most people are doing the strength training so that they can enjoy those activities. So yeah, I would include those other activities on the days in between, and it's not going to disrupt what you do. The only thing I'd say is if you are doing full body workout, so in a session, and I normally get people to do this, is you might do a pull exercise, a push exercise, a leg exercise, and a trunk rotation. So you're kind of covering the whole body. So you wouldn't then come in the very next day to do it. So if you are only doing 2 days a week, you're just not doing them back-to-back days. You're making sure you're separating those days out, and then you can do whatever you want to in those other days, because although you're doing activity, you're still resting them in terms of you're not doing pushing muscles to fatigue in the same way that you would in a gym. So yeah, hope that kind of helps answer that. But I would, not only would I recommend cross training, I really encourage you to do it. And yeah, it won't have any impact on there. Good. So next question there is, are there any supplements that you would suggest to help lifting weights later in life? So I'm just going to be slightly cautious in my answer here, because I'm a qualified physiotherapist. I'm not a nutritionist by any form, and I don't want to kind of go and kind of have it all recorded on YouTube giving advice that I don't know enough about. So I'm not going to go too detailed into response. I am going to start to try and connect with a nutritionist to come on and do a bit of an interview with these Q&A sessions, so we can get a good I can kind of relay all your questions on to that person. So if you've got any questions about nutrition that I can ask him at a later date, then do send me those questions. But what I would say for now is protein is the kind of one of the most important things, because a lot of people, as they start getting into lifting weights to try and feel stronger, also start to want to lose some body fat as well. So they really restrict their diet at the same time they're pushing their muscles to fatigue. And when you're pushing muscles to fatigue regularly, you actually need a lot more protein in order to help with the recovery period. But if you've restricted your whole diet, as well as restricting calories and carbs, you've probably restricted protein as well, which means your muscles now aren't getting the recovery they need, and they actually break down despite doing the strength training. So you probably find that although you might lose weight, you're losing just as much muscle as you are body fat. So if you are going to restrict diet, try and restrict more the carbs rather than the protein. But the big thing is you get enough protein in there. So as a rough idea, they tend to say if you can get about 2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, then you're onto a good thing there. They do say, I think it's about 20 to 25 grams is about the maximum amount of protein that you can absorb in one sitting. So if you are taking protein and you're trying to kind of hit your target, don't try and get it all in the same sitting. Try and spread it out throughout the day. And what I say, sorry, I've got my cats fighting here, is if you are trying to get that protein in, try and get it initially from your natural diet. And then if you still need some more protein after that, that's when you start going to the protein shakes. A lot of people with supplements hope the supplements are the answer there to the problems, rather than what supplements are. They should complement what you're already doing. So again, a lot of people do take that thing of, if I take the supplements, I don't need to do anything else, or I don't need to change my diet or worry about that. And it's quite interesting. And I went to a nice talk from Dave Brailsford's number 2 coach when he was at British Cycling and Team Sky. And Dave Brailsford's, he's very famous for this 1% marginal gains theory, where if you keep making enough 1% changes, you'll have a big dramatic effect. And that's what Team Sky did. But what this coach that I went to the talk did is they didn't let them make those marginal changes until they got their training right, the core 80% of their training right, and their diet right. And he wouldn't let them get any new bikes or new bits of kit until they were winning with what they had. And then when they learned how to maximize what they had, then they started bringing in these 1% changes. But a lot of people hear the marginal gains theory and they make the changes without doing the 80%. And yeah, so use supplements as that. They're there to help what you're already doing. And there's things you can do to help with tracking what you're eating and actually what ratio of carbs to protein, etc. So there's things like MyFitnessPal where you can track what food you're eating, and then it lets you know, and then you can kind of help make changes a bit from there. But yeah, that's definitely something to consider. But like I say, I'm going to try and connect with a nutritionist to come on and give some more detailed answers on that, because I'm hearing a bit more on some of the podcasts I listen to about creatine and the importance of that at an older age. But again, I don't know enough about it to give you any kind of meaningful advice on that at this stage. If you're looking for podcast recommendations, Andrew Huberman's got a good one. Peter Attia as well. They're both into longevity and big advocates of lifting weights as you get older, and they talk very much about the nutrients as well. They're kind of both doctors that help with that. So they might be of interest to you. But for the moment, I'll kind of leave that question there. Like I say, if you are watching this live and you've got any questions, do use that chat feature or use the comments on Facebook. Or if you're watching the replay of this, then again, I'd still love to answer your questions in a future week. So do send your questions in to me. I mentioned already, but I'll just mention quickly again, if you're interested in getting started in strength training, then you might be interested in this free ebook. You just go to off the website. So the link's there, nevertaught-to-lift.com/start-here. Or if you look in the description of this video, you'll see the link directly there. In just over half an hour, I'm going to be doing the webinar that I mentioned. So nevertaught-to-lift.com/webinar. So it's an hour-long presentation with a lot more sort of structure in terms of the actionable steps that you can take to get started. And in that, I've also, in the next week, I'm doing an offer on my, wrong link there, put that one up, on my online course. So it's a more actionable or more interactive way of going through the theory within the book, and then you'll get weekly access to me via group Zoom calls. But for the moment, I'm running a £50 off discount. And the first 10 people over the next couple of days who sign up are also getting a free one-to-one call with myself. So if you've been thinking about the course and you're interested in that, then do head over to nevertaught-to-lift.com/course. But for now, I've got one more question that came in actually during the webinar last night that I did. And it's, are squat Are squats bad for us low back pain sufferers? I worry about the pressure on my low back with the higher weights. And yes, this is something that I hear a lot, and it's completely rational thinking that if you do some squats and you can feel it's not feeling quite right, then often we think, I'll leave the squats alone, I'll stick to the exercises that I'm comfortable doing. But actually it's a sign that there's the weakness around your back on the squats, and actually we need to be doing probably more squats in order to get them more tolerant to the pressures we're going to put through it, so that we can then do them more comfortably and lift the weight. And the higher weight that we lift in the gym and we're comfortable with it, and we get the back to learn to tolerate that, suddenly everything you do on a day-to-day basis seems a lot lighter and a lot easier, and you're less likely to get these flare-ups. So with the body, but equally, if we try and push too aggressively too soon, there's a good chance we're going to flare the back up as well. So we have to respect the fact that you've got back pain and you suffer with some pain, and we need to be very careful about the start point that we find. And I always say, with building a strength program, finding the right start point is the hardest part, but once you've got it, you can always fall back to that, and that's where we keep progressing from to get more and more tolerant. But at the moment, if your back can only tolerate a little bit of pressure, then if we suddenly put heavy weights on without having prepared it for it, it's going to flare up. So we need to kind of see what level you can. So it might be that you're stuck with bodyweight squats to start with, or even if you can't do a bodyweight squat without hurting your back, then we can still find similar actions to it. So you might actually then go, right, let's try a leg press machine in the gym, because you're laying down, your back supported, and whereas a bodyweight squat, you can't, the least amount you can do is your body weight. You might be able to do things like hold a TRX, so you offload your body weight by pulling on the straps of the TRX, or you might use a box where you're pushing some weight through the arms to try and offload it. But it's hard to offload your body weight, whereas if you're in a leg press machine, you can use you can set the weight that you're using to a lighter weight than your weight is, if that makes sense. So for me, I'm about 80 kilos. So if I went on a leg press machine, I can set it to 40 kilos. So I'm now effectively squatting half my body weight. So I can get the back and the legs used to tolerating a lighter weight, and then gradually build it from there until I can tolerate bodyweight squats, and then I can start to add a bit of weight on. So pressure through joints and through tendons and muscles isn't a bad thing. The question is, how much can I tolerate right now? And if it's only a little bit, we then start with the little bit you've got and gradually build from there. So it doesn't necessarily need to look like heavy weights in order to build strength, but as we build strength, your back should be tolerated. Obviously, there are some kind of red flags you might look out for. So if, along with your back pain, you're having issues of control of your bowel or bladder, you've got pins and needles and numbness down both legs, you've never had it assessed, there's some really kind of worrying signs there. And I would, if anyone's watching this and you've got pain with bowel or bladder symptoms, you've got numbness down both legs, it could be something really urgent. So go and see your GP straight away, or even go to A&E for that. But if it's just that you've got back pain, pins and needles down ones that if you've got some sciatic symptoms, is not such an issue. But there are things that we're going to have to look out for, and we might have to adapt around. So if you are struggling and you've never had it assessed before, do go see a physio or another rehab professional that might be able to help you find your start point and build from there. But if it's just that it's been a bit of an ache, and it's more that you just got fear and worry about it rather than it being excruciatingly painful all the time, then yeah, strength training and squats are going to be something that should help with that. Good. So I've got Alistair Cunningham's just said, hi Chris. So hi Alistair, good to hear from you. And then I've got Lynn. Let's just bring up Lynn's question. Let me just hide this one. That should come on the screen. Here we go. So Lynn says, I have problem with squats as my knees are painful and give way easily, so this makes me nervous. Any suggestions, please? So yes, it's easy to see over the side, yeah. So hi Lynn, thanks for the question. What I'd probably say is again, squats, building strength around the knee is going to help with that feeling of wanting to give way and the pain. What we often need to find, if you're struggling to get the muscles to a point of muscle fatigue around your squats because the pain keeps kicking in before you get anywhere near muscle fatigue, then that's where we might need to just adapt how we're doing it. So the leg press is a really useful way of doing it because you can reduce weight right down. Sometimes it might be that you don't worry about going through a full depth of a squat. We might actually start with just going down to a very shallow squat, so you can use a box in the gym to just lower yourself down to the box and back up again. And often it's the depth of the squat that adds the pressure to the knees that makes them painful. And I've do this with several of my patients, is I find what depth squat they can tolerate, and then I start to load them heavy again a gradual process to make sure they can tolerate it. But I get them to load quite heavy in that shallow range, and actually they can tolerate that without pain. And then as you build some strength in the quads, you can then reduce the weight back off, and then you can start to see if you can go down to a slightly lower surface. And having that surface behind you is a good safety net, because if your knees do feel like they're suddenly going to give way, you can suddenly just sit down to the box and you feel very safe and supported there. But equally, it stops you from going too deep as well, that the knees are going to suddenly move into that deep position where they're going to be quite painful. You can do some other things to try and build the quads, so the knee extensions, where you're kind of kicking the leg forwards against resistance, and that could be a knee extension machine in the gym. It can be done with a resistance band, sort of tied to a table leg, and then you can position the chair over the resistance band, and then you can loop your foot through it and kick forwards. That can help build the quad strength, which is then going to help reduce the knee pain, which is then going to help you feel more confident with the squats. Anything else that kind of works from there? Yeah, the main thing I tend to do is work on shallow squats with heavier weights first, and then reduce the weight again, and then go down to the deeper positions, and that's a kind of a good strategy to begin with. And then say the knee extension's another good way of doing it, but sometimes people don't like that, and that can be painful. But yeah, you do want to build the strength around it and get used to doing squats, because that will help the knees. But I completely understand most people get knee pain, so they think squats aren't for me, I'll avoid the squats and I'll just work on everything else. And it's just finding ways to adapt around that. So I hope that's answered. If there's any other kind of follow-on questions from that, then either comment below, or you can send me an email. It's chris@nevertooldtolift.com, and I'll be able to kind of answer that in a bit more detail for you there. So let me just hide that one there. So again, if you are watching this live, that's all the questions that I had prepared. So last chance to kind of get your questions in live now, if you've got any here. If you are watching the replay, do put those in the comments, and I'll cover those in future weeks. And if you don't want to do it publicly, like I say, you can send that email through to ask me questions, which I'll cover in a future week. And then just while I'm waiting to see if we've got any more questions coming in, I'll quickly recap. So yeah, in 25 minutes, I'm going to be doing free webinar that you do have to register for. So do go to nevertooldtolift.com/webinar, and it'll be about an hour to an hour and 15 of your time. I'll go through some theory. It will all be kind of pictures, slides, videos, a bit more interactive than these Q&A sessions, or a bit more structured anyway. And hopefully give you everything you need to get started there. So that does start at 1 o'clock, and obviously the Tuesday one happened last night, so that one's no longer available to register for. There will be replays of those, so if you register particularly as well, you'll make sure you get those replays, but I will be trying to put it on YouTube, so if you come back to YouTube later this evening, the replay should be on there by now. Then free ebook, you can get that nevertooldtolift.com /start-here, and all these links are in the description below. And then, as I mentioned, as part of the webinar, I'm running up a promotion for the next week. So up until Tuesday next week, or the end of Tuesday, I'm doing £50 off Stronger for Life course. So it's nevertooldtolift.com /course. And then the first 10 people as well. So I think I've had about 3 or 4 sign-ups. So there's still some free places to go. So the first 10 people are going to get a free call with myself to help you find that starting point to then progress from. So if you're interested in that, do have a look there. So nevertoldtolift.com/course. But for now, I think that is all the questions. So hopefully I will see some of you on the webinar in about 24 minutes time. If not, I'll see you back here next week at 12 o'clock on next Wednesday. Brilliant. Thank you for watching.